If everyone who finishes an online programming tutorial could get a job, we would have millions of software engineers every year. But we only had 600,000 new developers last year in the entire world. What does this tell us? Learning coding is not enough. There is something more to this job hunting game. When I applied for jobs after learning programming, I was rejected hundreds of times. What I learned from this humiliating experience was that employers are looking for some sort of signal in your past that assures them that you are ready to take on the everyday challenges of being a software engineer. If you've already worked as a developer, your work experience along with your interview performance is already a good enough signal. But if you're a newbie, they need some other signal on top of your interviews that tells them that you will be able to get the job done. That's where your projects come in. And not just any projects. You need something that simulates the actual day-to-day of a software engineer. In this video, we'll talk about 5 such projects. 2 of these projects were done by Bill Gates himself when he was learning programming. These projects will surely impress the hiring managers and help you get hired. Let's do this. Tic-Tac-Toe is one of the best starter projects for beginners.
One of the first things I learned was how to write a program to play tic-tac-toe.
And there is a good reason for that. For those who don't know, Tic-Tac-Toe is a game where 2 players take turns to mark squares of a 3x3 grid with X or 0, and the first player that occupies a full row, column or diagonal wins. But isn't tic-tac-toe too simple? What can a beginner even learn from such a simple project? Well, the first thing you learn are the basics of object-oriented design. How should you model your grid? Should it be a simple 2D array, or does it have a class of its own? What are the different reusable functions that your grid should support? Does the grid have to be 3x3, or you can build a generic n×n grid? You get the point. Next, you will learn algorithmic thinking. How would you tell if one of the players has already won the game? Do you have to go through every single row, every column, and every diagonal to do that? Let's say your program can play the game against you. How would it decide its next move? All these questions will make you think like a programmer. In terms of the UI, you can go as crazy as you want. You can print the current state of the grid within the terminal, or you can beautify it and host it on a website. I will leave a link in the description to help you get started with this project and all the other projects we discussed today. Now that you know how to design classes and functions, you are ready to take on a slightly more complex project. By the way, we'll keep increasing the complexity with every project to make sure that you are constantly growing. Next project I have for you is a tournament runner. Imagine that you work as a software engineer for FIFA or ICC, and you are tasked to make the schedule of a football or a cricket World Cup. You will be given a total of 16 teams, and you need to divide these teams into different groups, decide who plays against whom, and visualize the progress of the tournament. How would you go about doing this? At high level, you will have a tournament class that keeps track of all the matches, a teams class that has information of a team, and a match class that stores opponents of a match and the winner. Once you have these classes in place, you can randomly pick a group for each team and a winner of each match. You can make it more interesting by assigning ratings to each team and picking a winner based on the rating of competing teams. At the end, you will have a winner for the entire tournament. As the output of the program, you will create a visualization for every step of the tournament, which will look something like this. Let's go back to Mr. Gates for our next project.
Eventually, one of the programs we took on was the idea of the scheduling of our school. When should the classes meet? Who should be in which sections?
In this project, we'll create a class scheduler. The idea is very simple. You have many different subjects to be taught to students. The classes for these subjects happen multiple times throughout the week. Many of these classes can have overlapping timings. Each class can have only a limited number of students. Students can opt to attend a subset of these classes. Your class scheduler needs to assign classes to all the students and make sure that none of these classes are overlapping and every student gets to attend all the classes they opted for. I'm sure it's obvious to you that the job of the scheduler keeps becoming harder as you increase the number of subjects and add a lot of overlapping classes. That's why this project is a very good candidate to learn how to unit test your code for different scenarios. The best thing about this project is that it's very open-ended. Your scheduler has to be able to handle any number of subjects, classes, and students. This ambiguity makes it very similar to your actual job as a software engineer, because as a software engineer, you will have to analyze the problem, understand all the constraints, come up with a design, and implement your solution. No wonder Mr. Gates still remembers this project from his early days. Let's crank it up a notch and move to our next project. Our next project is coming from the world of algorithms. Imagine that you have a grid of size n by n. Some of the squares on this grid are marked no entry zones or obstacles. You are given a starting point and an end point. In the first step of the project, you need to find and visualize any path from the starting point to the end point without going through any obstacles. One algorithm to do this is depth first search or DFS. In DFS, you begin at the starting point and try to go as deep as possible along an unexplored path to reach the end point. If you can't reach the end point, you return backwards until you find an unexplored path and start exploring it. When you visualize DFS, you will see that even though you can find the endpoint with this algorithm, you are exploring a lot of unnecessary areas on the grid in the process. So in the second step of this project, you will find and visualize the shortest path from the starting point to the end point. For that, you will use another algorithm called breadth first search or BFS. In BFS, you don't go deep and only explore the neighboring unvisited squares of the squares that you are currently visiting. If you don't understand any of this, don't worry. That's what this project is for. Anyway, BFS will help you find the shortest path from the starting to the end point. Once you visualize DFS versus BFS, you will see it for yourself that if you want to become a programmer, you need to use breadth first approach to your learning. So instead of going too deep and trying to learn everything from get-go, learn basics and explore the neighboring squares of what you already know by building these projects. By doing this, you will find the shortest path to become a full-time software engineer. Next, let's move on to the project that will really test everything that you have learned so far. We will write a program that helps you find the best prices when shopping online. We will call this program Deal Finder, and here is how it works. Deal Finder is a Chrome extension that helps you find the best prices for a product by comparing websites like Amazon, Flipkart or Target. You can also make it as a program that runs locally on your computer and uses web scraping to extract data from different websites. But I believe Chrome extension will be more fun because the hiring managers will be able to see the live demo if they have linked to the extension. This extension will read the source code of the web page and try to understand if you are checking out a product on one of these websites. Before you buy the product, it will look for a better price on other websites, and if it finds a better deal for you, it will give you the alternate link to buy the product from. If you want to make it even better, you can add the functionality to apply all the different promo codes that are available on the internet to further sweeten the deal. You might have seen extensions like Honey that do the same. Now that you have already built so many projects, you need to write them on your resume in a way that they actually sound impressive to the hiring managers. If you want to know how to do that, watch this video where you will find data-driven tips on how to write a killer resume. My name is Sahil, and I'll see you in the next one.